quick message before we start. We hope our conversations open up new perspectives and new ideas for our listeners, and our goal is to be informative. But we want to emphasize that this isn't a substitute for individual therapy, and we're not providing medical or psychological advice here. If you feel moved by what you hear, and if you want to explore it more deeply, or if there's something in your life you'd like to work on, please reach out to an LGBTQ affirming therapist online or in your area. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the Psych Out Podcast, where two psychology nerds get psyched up for LGBTQ affirming history, research, and practice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Psych Out Podcast. I'm Dr. Jen. I say this every time, so now I've started singing it. I'm a clinical psychologist in private practice who works with mostly LGBTQ people of all ages. I didn't even think about it. That's perfect for this episode. So my co-presenter, Chris, is doing some wise self-care at the end of their quarter. And so instead I am joined by my friend, Ashley, who is amazing and one of my favorite people in the world. And Aww. Ashley, what are we here to talk about?
Wicked!
We're here to talk about one of my favorite movies. And it's so funny. I told my wife before this, I was like, I wish that you liked the movie because then you could come record with us. And she's like, no, thanks. I've seen it too many times.
Oh, I would love to hear Clara's take on these. I feel like that would be great.
Yeah, it would, right? Oh my gosh. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, other than the fact that I just also want an excuse to geek out about Wicked with you,
any excuse for that.
Yeah, right. Well, and I will say about the topic, in addition to the fact that Chris couldn't be here and we wanted to do something a little more lighthearted, it's been a rough Pride Month. And yeah, this will probably be released in July. So it will probably have continued to be a rough Pride Month. And so we wanted to do something uplifting, but also I remember when the movie was in theaters, you showing us a video, talking about it before you went into the theater, and then bawling your eyes out after the show. And I'm like, this is who I want to talk to about this.
Yeah, Wicked, it got me. It really did. And like I was explaining, I really didn't know much about Wicked before, so I just went in kind of just no expectations, and it got me. It really did. I was sobbing.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So well done. So well done.
I love it. And I told you before too, I would have been, except I was trying to hold it in to be cool in front of my wife when I saw it the first time. But I've since sobbed at it. And we come from very opposite places to this movie, right? Because I read, if you've been living under a rock, and I respect you if you have been, everybody out there, and don't know, Wicked is the retelling of the story of the Wizard of Oz as sort of a prequel, but from the point of view of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. Which Elphaba, by the way, that name was not the Wicked Witch of the West was never named before the Gregory Maguire book that this is based on. It's from L. Frank Baum, Elphaba. That's how he came up with the name.
Oh, wow.
The Wicked Witch of the West, right? I've got all these factoids. Just watch
me,
it. Okay?
We're learning new things.
Because this is the opposite side that I come from. I was obsessed with those books when I was a kid. Yeah. I read them over and over and over again. And I read the Gregory Maguire book that came out in the 1990s that retold the story from, and that was there was a whole series in the 1990s that he wrote, and I think some other people did too, where they took famous villains and then told in fiction and then told the story from the villain's perspective, and especially women villains. Mm-hmm. Although, as I will mention probably a little bit later, the way Maguire wrote Elphaba was possibly intersex. It was kind of vague, but he made a point of saying that there were things about her at birth other than her skin that made people confused about her.
Okay.
Right? I'm telling you, it's been there all along. The queerness has been there all throughout. Okay. So
We've always been there.
We've always been there.
We've always been there from the beginning.
There you go. Even in Oz.
Right.
And I've seen the musical a couple times on stage, and I may have watched it so many times in like what's called slime tutorials on YouTube. And a slime tutorial is basically like somebody recorded something in the theater and then posted it on YouTube. And
wow.
I will justify that by saying that Broadway is too exclusionary and it needs to be democratized and whatever. But if someone has played those roles on Broadway, I have probably watched significant clips of them in those roles. And so I came into this movie definitely knowing about this musical.
Oh, wow. I feel like I'm like so unprepared. Like you're like, what do you want to know? Who was my favorite alphabet? Wait a minute. Like you have like all these things. And I'm just like, yeah, didn't know much about it. I mean, literally like I had no idea about it. And like, I don't remember how old I was when I had first heard about Wicked or when it became like a really huge musical.
Yeah.
But like my mom, like the best way she explained it to me was literally like, yeah, it's just kind of like the story of like how things came to be with the Wicked Witch and, you know, the story of the, you know, Oz and everything. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And because I was like, I wasn't a huge fan of like, the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, me neither, actually. It's really not my jam. Like,
yeah. So like I watched it as a child, but like when my mom told me about that, I'm like, okay, great. Like you enjoy that. Love that for you.
Yeah.
So I never like got behind the hype of it. And then finally when the movie came out and everybody's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, okay. I will give it a chance. Everyone just calm down. I saw like
I one of the ones going, actually, you have to see it. You have to go see this movie.
I mean, I think so. And like my sister for sure was like, you haven't seen it? And all like just everybody. And then I like on TikToks I saw like, you know, everyone's crying about it. And I was like, it can't be like that. It can't be. And then, you know, cut to, I am literally like, I am sobbing. I was like embarrassed because I was gasping for air. And like my mom like started recording me like, this is Ashley after watching Wicked. And I'm just like, like I couldn't. It's such a beautiful story, but also the music is like earth shattering to me.
The music is great.
Everything about it for like a musical theater queer nerd, like it was everything for me. So yeah.
What in the movie stands out to you as what the thing or things that got you the most?
I think definitely just like I resonated so much with just Elphaba's character. And I mean, I think like a lot of people, especially like in the queer community, like at being kind of like ostracized or like misunderstood. I mean, like queer people from the beginning of time have been kind of like demonized by society. That just watching her go through that struggle, but then being able to like at the end like have this kind of acceptance and to rise above it, and she's just like living authentically. It was just like everything for me because it just like, you know, I feel like I have had that struggle and how I'm still coming to terms sometimes with like trying to just like be my own authentic self and be resistant of all the background noise and bullshit that's happening. So for me that was a really big deal. But then also like on like a personal note, like with like Elphaba and Nessa, just because like like with my sister, and my sister is in a wheelchair, and I have that protective, like nobody fucks with my little sister, and like it was just like it was like radiating in my chest. Like I was like, yeah, go throw these fucking rocks at these little kids. Like I was like I was so mad. I was like, you know what? Fuck him. So like, sorry, I don't know if we can curse, but
we absolutely curse. We absolutely can curse. Don't worry about it. If anybody is out there shocked that a psychologist curses, I'm sad to shatter your image, but we absolutely can curse. Yeah.
But so like with that too, I mean, I don't want to do any spoilers or whatever if people don't know this story.
Let me actually say we'll spoil the first movie. I will not talk about the second movie or the second like act of the stage show, so that we don't spoil any of that.
Sounds good.
But the first half, like, and this movie, we'll talk about as much as you want.
So like the interaction with Elba and Nessa, and even just like little subtle things, like when the dad is like not the dad, but like the aide came to like push her wheelchair.
Yes.
And she's like, she doesn't, like, don't do that. And I'm like, yes, because like that's how my sister, like, she doesn't want people to take care of her like that. And I'm like the first person who's like, no, she's fine. Like she'll
let her take care of herself.
Like she will tell us if she needs help, like leave her alone. So I had that definite, like, the big sister protector vibe of that as well.
That actress who plays Nessa is also the first actual wheelchair user to play that role, which is depressing on some level, but also great in others, and supposedly was able to give a lot of input about her character. You know, who knows if that's hype or not, but supposedly was. So far, it's been very like true to what the stage show has been, but apparently did. And, you know, was there anything about like, because I think I mentioned before we recorded, this is also, I think, the first Black woman to play Elphaba, which is shocking to say.
I believe that, because I believe, yes, like Cynthia Erivo is the first one. And then I think since then on Broadway, there has now been a African-American or woman playing Elphaba. But yes, I think that is absolutely correct. And I think that's crazy. But you know, it's crazy on so many levels. Like even like you said, like the first disabled or like person to be playing that role. I know it meant a lot to my sister to know that.
Oh, I bet.
And because I didn't know that until she told me, and I just remember her like just. It meant so much to her. So, you know, it's just representation is a huge thing. And I don't think people really understand that. Like there's, it's crazy.
And one of the things that I love about how this musical works is that you can both see the specificity of the representation, which I'll get to in a minute, because like it's friggin' queer, everybody. It's friggin' queer.
It's very queer coded.
It's queer. Yeah. And we'll talk about like how it like sort of straddles the line of like text and subtext, right? But they managed to do it in such a way that I think anybody who has felt excluded, anyone who has felt marginalized or teased can relate. And also we can all very, I think, substantively, logically, reasonably see very specific issues that we relate to as well. Like they did a great job of doing all of that stuff, right? Some with the casting, right? You know, certainly Cynthia Erivo is a major, amazing star. And also just her casting symbolized a lot for those who knew the musical and knew the history, and for anybody, right? So, and I mean, Ariana Grande, like queer icon.
Right.
You know, they knew their audience.
At LGBTQ Evolutions, we know that change starts with people like you. Every act of kindness, every dollar, and every moment of your time brings us closer to removing the barriers that prevent our friends and family from being themselves. Together, we can create a brighter, more compassionate future for our community. Donate today with the link below.
Let me back up though a little bit and talk a little bit about like the line that is I don't know, hopscotch. Do you hopscotch a line? Whatever. The line that is straddled between queer coding and like just actual like queerness in Oz. And when we talk about like queer coding is something that happened that we use a lot to talk about like media where they aren't willing to come right out and say that these are queer people. They just like kind of give us everything we need to know that they are queer people. And we can argue about whether that was like intentional within the original musical, but like the interpretation has grown pretty loud and proud that Glinda, the who becomes the Good Witch, right? Glinda the Good Witch. And yes, we've got air quotes on Good Witch.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely. I've loved all the like videos I've seen about is Glinda a fascist? And like all that kind of stuff. Great. But like that there is a more than just a friends thing between the two of them. That is something that, again, whether they're pandering or not, various people who've played specifically the role of Glinda, including Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the role on Broadway, and Ariana Grande, were like, yeah, actually, I think she's kind of bi. Something along those lines, right? That interpretation's been around, and that interpretation not only comes from the text of the musical, but it comes from friggin' all of the legacy of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Friends of Dorothy?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually,
do you want to explain what that is?
Well, yeah, you can tell me if I'm correct, because the very first time that I heard it, and again, it's kind of funny that my mom is like telling me about like queer things, because I'm like, what? Because the very like first, so I came out when I was like 18, so this is no news for anyone. But my mom and I had gone on a cruise, probably like 2 years after I came out, and we're like looking on the like itinerary and everything, and then it said like a Friends of Dorothy meeting, and I'm like,
I love that. Oh my gosh,
what the fuck is that? I have no idea. And my mom's like, do you want to go? And I'm like, to what the fuck is
Dorothy? Is that a family reunion happening? What's happening over here?
I'm like, who is Dorothy? I'm like, Mom, this is kind of crazy. So again, tell me if I'm wrong, but she told me essentially it's like a queer like group, like it's like a gathering or a get together or something, and that they were having. So like she was like, hey, you're gay.
Go to the Friends of Dorothy.
Would you like to go to the Friends with Dorothy? And she was trying to be so cool about it. She was like, you know what? I don't have to go with you. Like, you can do you. Like, I can find something to do during that time. But of course, I'm like 20, and I'm like, absolutely no way, I'm not doing that. But like now at like 37, I'm like, absolutely, let's check this out. Let's go.
Yes, I love it. So my understanding is the history of this is back when, like in the like 40s and 50s, like way back, 40s and 50s. It was code that specifically gay men would use in order to identify each other. Like, are you a friend of Dorothy? And it was specifically a reference to the Wizard of Oz. Like that had already become like kind of a like iconic film in queer culture. Sure. And, a lot of what we associate, like a lot of our terminology, a lot of we associate with queer culture comes out of gay male culture because
Judy Garland over the rainbow. So I get it now. Like I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you can see it. You can. I think that was even before rainbow was a symbol for LGBTQ stuff. Like that didn't happen until the 70s. So like, I think there was just something that everybody connected to in the story. And also it's very camp, right? Like Wizard of Oz is very camp. And the Cowardly Lion is like I think queer coded.
Yes,
This stuff,
yeah.
by the way, that also comes from, there used to be much more overt queer content in films before the 1920s, when the Hays Code was implemented by the Motion Picture Association of America, that basically, along with many other things, said we will not endorse your film or distribute your film or rate your film if it has any LGBTQ stuff, unless those characters like have a tragic end. Right. So like the whole bury your gays thing and the whole like all of that comes out of the period of time when that was the only way to have gay characters.
I mean, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, because all of like the queer films that I used to watch like growing up, I'm like, why does everyone have to die, or why does everyone have to like oh my god, like do we ever end up happy? Like
and now it's become a lazy trope, but that like that's where it was. So, like, The Wizard of Oz came out during this period of time when, like, there had been some access to queer media, and now there wasn't any access to queer media. And so we look for what we can get out of the media around us, and that was there. But I will say, as someone who was obsessed with those books when I was a kid, those are some gay-ass books, okay? Like, I will give you an example. Ozma, do you know the character Ozma from the movies, I think Return to Oz, which is a movie that freaked me the hell out when I was a kid. Have you ever seen Return to Oz?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're coming over and watching it with me, because it is
I can't wait.
It is such a weird movie. And it terrified the living shit out of me when I was a kid. Yeah. But like it's not a horror film. It's just ooky spooky, okay? So that character, the character Ozma, shows up. Ozma is sort of like becomes like sort of the it's been a while, so if I get terminology wrong here, like whatever, everybody. But like she basically becomes like the queen of Oz, and she is the rightful ruler of Oz, not the wizard, and like becomes very close friends with Dorothy, and that's Ozma. So Ozma was, for most of her life as a child, most of her childhood, a boy, because she was transformed into a boy by, I think it was a witch. I can't remember. Witch is always doing that stuff, right? Like, okay. So she was transformed into a boy. And then when she like claimed her throne, she also was able to claim her girlhood. And so we have like, arguably an explicitly trans character. Like there's stuff in these books. It's not coming out of nowhere. Now, I will say, did Frank L. Baum mean all of that? Whatever, maybe. But so L. Frank Baum, kind of a feminist at the time, like for the time, like a pro-women's suffrage, like supported his wife's ambition, stuff like that. Virulent racist and anti-Semite. So, big mixed bag with that guy. But if you look at the books, like very like progressive with respect to gender. Nobody in Oz says, should Ozma rule? Maybe Ozma's going to get her period and be crazy. Nobody says that, right? Like, and like the whole sort of idea of the book is to have a hero sort of like Dorothy, although Dorothy's not in all the books, who is adventurous and independent and all that kind of stuff. So it's been there all along. And then Gregory Maguire, there is a scene in the book where Elphaba and Glinda kiss. So
it's not just like queer coded, romantically ambiguous.
Yeah,
like,
right. And like you talked about the flip side of queer coding. Queer coding, right, is when the person creating the art like puts in something, and queer coding is not always good either. Like a lot of Disney villains are queer coded for bad reasons. And then queering is when we look at something that's not explicitly meant to be seen as queer, but we write ourselves into that story. And I'll give you like such an example. Let It Go, as far as I'm concerned, is a coming out song. Yeah. Let It Go from Frozen. And that is queering. I know that I'm queering that song. I'm fully aware.
I never thought about it, but I swear to you, after we are done with this, I'm going to listen to it with that context. Yeah, I'm like, wow. That's great.
You got to go listen. Yeah. And I mean, it was Idina Menzel who like was the first Elphaba on Broadway is the one who sings that. So like, it's really apparently like mezzo sopranos are queer
She's
now.
on my queer timeline of everything now. Like, yeah, wow. I didn't think about that, but like just going from like Rent when she's like Maureen to now she's what is it? Who is it?
Oh, I don't remember. Oh gosh. I'm so bad. Now everybody knows I don't have kids.
No, we're gonna get this. It's Elsa. It's Elsa, right? Because it's Elsa and Anna.
It's Elsa. Anna's the boring one.
No one cares about Anna. And she plays Elphaba. That's like, wow.
Yeah, she was the original Elphaba. Okay, so like there's queer coding and then there's queering and then there's just straight up queer. And like you can argue that Elphaba and Glinda are just straight up queer and we're not having to like dig for it. But you know, the movie isn't that overt, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much readable. What would you have taken from the movie to say, oh, they're into each other? This is not two straight chicks who are just really good friends. What would you have taken from the movie that would say that to you?
I think like for me, and I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but I'm good. Like the first moment where I was like, huh, like maybe there's something, was like when Elphaba was going to meet the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And like that whole interaction between Fieros and like she's like, oh, like getting kind of like jealous, but I was like not thinking that she was getting jealous of Fiero. I'm like, she's getting jealous of the interaction between Elphaba.
Yes.
And so that's why I was like, oh, okay. And it's just like, I mean, the whole interaction between them is just so like, you have like the tension between them and then like you kind of get to like this like reconciliation and like they're cool.
It's the enemies to lovers trope.
Exactly.
Like, we all know that trope. We're all cued to look at that and wait for that progression. The enemies and like loathing, like think about like my pulse is rushing, my head is reeling. What is this feeling? Like these are lyrics. And I think Stephen Schwartz, the composer and lyricist, did that on purpose, though maybe not knowing that would make it kind of gay. Like did it on purpose in the sense of like he's playing with exactly that kind of like lover, like love at first sight / hate at first sight like thing. But like it's the enemies to lovers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and every time I see it, I see something different. But I think that was like the very first time that I saw it. That was the first time where I was like, okay, I maybe see what people like have been hinting towards or what they're talking about.
I have one for you to look for if I didn't already tell you this one. Okay. Next time you see it. Okay. So when they go when they go to Emerald City and like they sing that song, and there's a place where they go, we're just two friends, two good friends, two best pause friends.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, see, right there. And I will say, here's where I relate to it. I will tell this story. You know this story. But when my first date, quote, air quotes, date with my wife happened after she got my number and messaged me and said, I'm looking for more friends in the area. So it made me think about that. And like, it took us like 4 dates before we were actually on a date. So, you know, there was something about that moment that I also really related to. Two best friends.
Yeah.
So that's what's so gay about Wicked, everybody.
So gay.
It's so gay. Wicked's so gay.
It's so gay, but I love it.
I love it. If you had to pick like one moment that really symbolizes like what you love or what touched you about it, what would you pick?
Oh my goodness. I think there were 2 very big parts for me. I think my cat is meowing. I think when they were dancing in the ballroom and like everyone like stops to stare at Elphaba and like how she's dressed and everything.
That was gorgeous and very much expanded from the stage show.
Yeah, because I saw the show, I saw the musical probably like a week after I saw the film. So which it's so hard, like you can't judge the two. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's like, but that scene, I really appreciate how they kind of they drug it out a little bit, or that's like probably not the word to use.
They gave it
but
space. They gave it room to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just so beautiful.
That's where I was crying the most. That scene
I was
got me.
Sobbing, Jen. I was sobbing, and I'm like, and I like looked at my mom, and she's like, we're not done," and I'm like, "We're not done yet. Like the movie isn't over. Can we like end it?" So, and just like something so simple where Glinda is like reaching out and like trying to mimic the dance moves and make them feel included, and like it's just something that it was like very special, because like even just like for me, like I had that one person like when I was like coming out and like feeling like out of place, and always tried to like, you're here and you have a safe space and I got you, and that's like
that one person who uses their power to include you, to welcome you in, makes all the difference.
Yeah. And so that was a very, very powerful scene for me. And then especially like when like Elphaba turns and she has a tear and like Glinda like touches her cheek and she's like, oh God, like I was just like, I was done after that, like already. But then I think like the big one, and I feel like a lot of people also obviously resonate with this one, is just Defying Gravity.
That song. Also a coming out song. That song.
Yeah. Huge like coming out song. I mean, of course. But it's such a great song, and it's such like a beautiful like power ballad of like your self-acceptance, but then also like rebelling past all of this like bullshit. And like it was, and then like also when she's like falling and she's seeing her younger self, and just like, oh my God,
giving that younger self the love that she didn't get from her father.
Exactly. It was, and like because for me, and like a lot of my story and personal things, like that was like a huge thing for me. Like even just seeing that scene was like healing for me in a way. And it was just, I couldn't, like, I was like lost. Like I was like watching the story and seeing how it's so beautifully evolving, but then also like it was resonating so much with me that I think that's why I was like, I was done. I like could not, like I'm like, I can't formulate words. I can't like express anything. It was just, I think it's just such a beautiful story. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Like would recommend. I mean, to be fair though, like I was already crying when she sang The Wizard and I.
Oh yeah. That song is fantastic too. Absolutely. Yeah. You know what I think about that though, that song, like they have a great bookend there, right? Because in The Wizard and I, it's, would it be all right by you if I degreenify you? Well, of course, that's not important to me. All right, why not? I'd reply.
All right, why not? Yeah.
And then, of course, when she's actually in Oz and he gives her that opportunity, she's like, no, I'd rather have justice for the animals, which is great. Cool. Yeah. Justice for the animals. And then also, though, by the time you get to Defying Gravity and where she reaches out to her younger self with her green skin, like that's where it is. I don't want to change myself. I tear up when I even say it, everybody. That's what a geek I am for this movie, which I am happy to be.
I mean, it's just like Wicked for me from like the start to finish. And like by the time Defying Gravity comes, and then just like that beautiful like swell of music that they have at the end, and it's just, oh my god, I was just so overwhelmed. But like it was like such like an emotional catharsis.
Mm-hmm.
I
a couple weeks after the election too. Like I couldn't not watch it in that, like, even like going back to the degreenify you sort of line, right? There's a little bit of like, we all had this progressive 4 years. And well, progressive, let me put, well, relatively, I've talked to people before about how like getting into gender affirming care, I didn't expect to be doing a controversial thing. And then all of a sudden I'm finding it to be like, so like being queer in any way in this country right now is hard. And I think many of us have been asked in the past the question, like, if you could be straight and or cis, would you be? And I loved that the movement in that film is from, maybe if it makes everyone else happy and I can accomplish more in my life, maybe degreenify me. I mean, if you think so, wizard, to no, I'm defying gravity. I'm living as myself fully, no matter what y'all think and what you do.
Right. Like, it's just an overall, like, it's just a beautiful story, I think, about just like self-acceptance or just like, about being different, being misunderstood, but learning to like love yourself anyway. And
yep.
What did I say? 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Like, let's go watch it again.
Yes. As soon as we're off, I swear, we didn't, when I did the sing along for my birthday, cause y'all, I did a Wicked sing along as my birthday party this year. Cause that's me. I even had a like,
it was great.
It was great. Right. I had a witch hat and everything. When we did that sing along, I bought it. I didn't rent it. I bought it. So anytime. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for joining me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. After the next one comes out, you have to come back on.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. And everybody, this has been a hopefully lighthearted, well, like a big-hearted but lighthearted episode of the Psych Out podcast. And we will post another episode soon. So I hope you come back and join us again. Thanks again, Ashley.
Love to do it. This is great. Can't wait to do it again.
Awesome. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Psych Out podcast. For more information on today's subject, information about our charity, or to find our Patreon, check the links below. Join us next time to learn more about the psychology of who we are.
These are difficult times. We know that some of you out there are suffering so much that you might be thinking of ending your life. If you're having thoughts of suicide, please reach out to professionals for help. You can go to an emergency room, call 911, or reach out to the hotlines we have linked in this description below. I know that many of us have had bad experiences in medical settings, but there are people, many people in this field who want you to live. Please reach out for help so that you can find them. We want you around for our next talk.